All right, we live? Hey everybody, Real Estate Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. Got a story out of Newsmax that I want to talk about. And this is the storm, the financial storm that no one is talking about. It's entitled Economy at Risk as $117 billion in office mortgages are coming due. Again, I've been talking about this for about 3 years, and it's something that is the reason why these banks failed this last spring. Their commercial mortgage-backed securities, or CMBS loans, had failed. We have a serious situation all around the country as remote workers are staying remote. A lot of them do not want to go back to work. Companies are finding themselves unable to pay the mortgages, and there is one famous building right now that is underwater that I want to tell you about in a second. So it says here the U.S. economy could be at risk this year as about 117 billion in loans to office buildings across the country are coming due and must be repaid or refinanced. Now, you may be thinking, how does this affect me, Ninja? Well, it does, because the banks make loans to office, companies for office buildings. They're the same banks that make loans for home mortgages. So when they are in trouble and they are not getting paid, they are less likely to put out risk at all. They're going to become risk adverse. They're going to pull back their money. Money is going to get tighter. It's going to cost more to lend it out. So that's how it affects the home mortgage sector. Now, it says a large portion of that is at risk of defaulting, which could prove costly to banks and developers, with some becoming insolvent, the Daily Mail reported on Monday, citing and real quick, I want to say thank you to Mary for sending me this article. Now, this was citing the Mortgage Bankers Association. It also could increase the likelihood of sparking a recession. Owners of office spaces across the country got their loans when interest rates were half of what they are now, and the owners might not be able to refinance them at the higher rates. Economists last month found 40% of office loans were underwater or owing more than the property is worth. 40% of office loans were underwater. This is absolutely massive. And when you think about office space in relation to what's happened in the residential space, these offices were not purchased in the last couple of years. They did not see that epic rise. These office spaces have been leased for many years, at least around 4 or 5 years. And those loans, they actually every 5 years, they need to be refinanced. So you can see as interest rates have just taken off, where these companies were really blindsided. Another company that's probably blindsided is Cardone Capital. These REITs. Think about this. Companies make money by loaning money out to people or investors for these large commercial residential properties. Well, they have to be refinanced every 5 years. And if they didn't see the writing on the wall or read the tea leaves of what the Federal Reserve was going to and had to do with interest rates, they got blindsided. And now they're being forced to refinance at much higher rates. And a lot of times, those companies, I'm not talking about Cardone Capital in specifically, right? Any of these companies are going to get hit with a wall of trouble because they didn't buy the property with enough of a wedge or enough of a margin to absorb these much higher financing costs. Okay, so that's why you see people like Grant Cardone coming out now saying we're going to experience the greatest real estate crash in his lifetime. Okay, I've been talking about this for a lot longer. As a matter of fact, he just started coming out and talking about that in the last 6, maybe 8 months, if that. Very few people saw this really ahead of time. That's why I've been trying to sound the warning bells for everyone. Now, it says here, Moody's Analytics estimated 224 of the 605 loans that will expire soon will be tough to repay or refinance because their owners have too much debt or the buildings aren't making them enough money. The analysts predicted buildings would need to generate at least 9% of their debt in annual income, or their owners face difficulties refinancing. The Seagram building on Park Avenue in New York was mortgaged at $760 million in 2012, with the lender assuming the building would bring in $74 million in revenue a year. What about pretty much a 10%, right? But that's a great deal right there. Within that time period in 2012 where mortgage rates were for commercial, buying 760 million with 74 million in annual revenue is great margin right there, okay? But all that changes if you don't see the Fed having to run rates up. Now, it said here 74 million in revenue year they were planning on, but the best it did was 69 million in 2018. So even when they projected that and they thought, oh, this is going to be great, the rents never ever got to the 74 million. And it said, and only 27 million it brought in 2022, according to the Financial Times. That's absolutely abysmal. We're talking bankruptcy numbers. Now, market analysts are hoping that interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve might come earlier than predicted. I do not believe that they are going to come when you think. I believe the max that they may do is 2 or 3 25-point basis cuts. And the reason why is they want to pretend and make you feel like the market's doing a lot better. But what is actually happening is it's going to lead to another spike in inflation. The data will come out. The Federal Reserve will have to about face and make things much, much worse. Now, I told you about a very, very famous building because there are buildings all over the country right now that are not only underwater, but they're being defaulted on right now. This is a massive, massive problem. It's going to lead to more problems with the banks. But the famous building right now, and this story comes out of, and I'm just going to highlight it. It comes out of BizNow, and it's entitled "Watergate Office Building Owner Delinquent on 73 million of CMBS loans," or actually, it's just one loan. It says the same office space at the Watergate complex that played a role in the downfall of then President Richard Nixon is contributing to worsening distress in the DC office market. A $73 million CMBS loan tied to the 11-story Watergate office building at 2600 Virginia Avenue has fallen delinquent, according to a notice from Morningstar last week, first reported by the Commercial Observer. The point is that nobody is immune to this. No structure is immune to this. And the truth is, even though the Fed's going to pull back possibly a little bit to make you think everything's good, everything is not good. And it is going to moonshot. And you are going to see mortgages on homes in the double digits. And it's going to be an exciting time to be alive and be an investor, because that's when you're going to make the most money, when everything hits straight chaos. I hope you got something from this. I thank you so much for watching. The Real Estate Ninja is out.